Good morning and God bless everyone. So in this lesson, we are going to talk about the Republic Act number 10157, or otherwise known as an act institutionalizing the kindergarten education into the basic education system and appropriating funds therefore. So let us proceed. So we are the group 10 reporters. I am the first reporter. I am Slima M. Saumay, taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Science. Next will be Noval, followed by Pitugo, then Ladlada, and the last reporter will be Marshall Jamaica Shane. Let us proceed. So, now, what is Republic Act number 10157? Like what I said earlier, it is an act institutionalizing the kindergarten education into the basic education system and appropriating funds therefore. So, kaning kindergarten education was institutionalized or gi-establish ni siya as a part kuno sa atong basic education system. And this was implemented partially in school year 2011-2012. So it was made a mandatory o compulsory for entrance to grade 1. So dili pareha sa una na we can proceed to grade 1, bahalag wala pa ka proceed sa kindergarten. But now, kaning nahimo na ni siya na act, dili na siya pwede. We can proceed muna sa kindergarten bago ta maka-proceed sa grade 1 because it was said na mandatory and compulsory for entrance to grade 1. So, kanina act was be enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the Philippines in the Congress assembled. So, in Section 1, short title, this act shall be known as the Kindergarten Education Act. So, under the Section 1 is the short title of this act. So, kanina act is the Republic Act o na ginatawag na Kindergarten Education Act. Again, the Republic Act 10157 is also known as a Kindergarten Education Act. So, let us proceed to Section 2, the Declaration of Policy. So, the Section 2. The Declaration of Policy, in consonance with the Millennium Development Goals on Achieving Education for All, or EFA, by the year 2015. It is hereby declared the policy of the state to provide equal opportunities for all children to avail of accessible, mandatory, and compulsory kindergarten education that effectively promotes physical, social, intellectual, emotional, and skill stimulation and values formation to sufficiently prepare them for formal elementary schooling. So, under the Section 2, is the declaration policy. So, this policy is nakasunod ni siya sa Millennium Development Goals para ma-achieve ang EFA. EFA means Education for All, which is a global movement na siya na gilid by the United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Gaim ni sila na ma-meet nila ang tanang learning needs sa mga bata, ang youth, even ang adults in the year 2015. So, the states declared this policy para maka-provide sila og equal opportunities sa tanang mga bata para ma-avail nila ang accessible na mandatory o compulsory na kindergarten education. So, para ang mga bata is ma-promote nila and ma-develop nila ang ilahang physical, kay naana sila yung mga activities sulod sa ilang classroom. So, naana sila buhaton dira with their group mates or classmates. Of course, ma-develop din ang ilahang social interactions. You will learn how to interact with one another. And with that, maka-learn na din na sila og kung na sila group activities like kanang magbasa-basa sila or kanang mag-count na sila kanang stones or kanang mga materials na gihatag silang teachers, they will learn how to communicate and magka-brainstorming na din na sila, then they will learn to interact na dayon. Then from that, no, na dayon sila ma-create na values formations. Then they will learn na dayon unsay bad and good with the help of their teachers, of course. So then they will be prepared na dayon sa ilang formal elementary schoolings with the help of their teachers by teaching them what is their learning strategies or unsay learning methods na ilahang ginabuhat or mga lessons na ilang ma-learn in that kind of particular na lessons. So, next slide. So, this act shall apply to elementary school system being the first stage of compulsory and mandatory formal education. Thus, kindergarten will now be integral part of the basic education system of the country. So, kanina act is gina-apply ni siya sa atong elementary school system, di ba? As a first stage ko no, na compulsory o mandatory na formal education. Makita sad nato na in our elementary days na naay kindergarten dito na gi-separate jud para sa mga bata, which is ang kindergarten na teachers na apod dadto. So meaning dili pud maka-proceed ang mga bata sa second stage, which is ang grade 1, unless dili nila mahuman ang ilang first stage or mag-kinder sa daan sila bago sila maka-proceed sa grade 1. For example, na ay teachers or na ay parents na mag-ask no sa teachers na iyahang anak is already 5 years old na. Dayon human na siya og daycare, nursery, kabalo na kay siya mobasa, magsulat. Din ganahan iyang parents na maka-proceed sa ayang anak sa grade 1. Dili na siya moagi og kindergarten. So, pwede ba na siya or dili? I think dili, di ba? Dili jud. Kay, according to this act is, ang kindergarten education is the first stage of compulsory and mandatory formal education. So, dili pwede na maka-proceed ang bata sa second stage, which is ang grade 1, unless dili siya mahuman sa first stage, which is ang kindergarten. So, that is why kindergarten is an integral part of the basic education system in the Philippines. Why? Because dili maka-proceed ang bata sa grade 1 unless dili siya mahuman sa kindergarten. That is why very important na karon ang kindergarten education para lang maka-proceed ang lahang anak sa grade 1, so they will enroll first sa kindergarten. Now, let us proceed. Kindergarten education is vital to the academic and technical development of the Filipino child, for it is the period when the young mind's absorptive capacity for learning is at its sharpest. It is also the policy of the state to make education learner-oriented, responsive to the needs, cognitive and cultural capacity, the circumstances and diversity of learners, schools, communities through the appropriate languages of teaching and learning. So, under gihapon ni siya sa section 2, no, ang kindergarten education is important, very important, or mahalaga sa academic o sa technical development sa mga batang Pilipino. Why? Because in this period, manggod, ang kindergarten education should help them to develop their learning capacity. Have you observed ng mga bata na 4 to 5 years old na dali ra kay sila mga catch up of words sa hilang parents, even though dili sila tudluan, especially if they are watching cartoon movies or kanang Nick Jr. baka ha, no, they can easily catch up those accents na dayon. Kay ilahang minds is dali ra kay sila maka-catch up of words. That is why the states create this policy to make the students or the children oriented na sila sa learner oriented na sila dayon. They can learn how to communicate with each other, kay dili ra gihapon permente mag-base sa kanang dili lang gihapon sila mag-base sa ilahang natun-an at homes, even sa ilang parents, but also na-adjoy ka ng specific jud na education para sa ilaha. in order to cater their needs, diba? So that is why the kindergarten education help them to develop their talents, abilities, o kanang values formations na sila'y mahimong values and na sila'y natunan na this is good or this is bad. They can also respect themselves and even others. They will learn also to interact na kanili ay mas nindot, na mas bati with the help of their teachers, because teachers are their second parents. So because of this curriculum also, gihimo ni siya to cater their needs of the learners. Bahalag kanang mga bata is na ay disabilities ba or gifted pa na sila. This is the reason why the curriculum made this in order to cater their needs. I think the reporter will also proceed the section 3.
Section 3 Definition of terms. The terms used in this act are defined as follows. A. DepEd shall refer to the Department of Education. B. BEE shall refer to the Bureau of Elementary Education. C. Kindergarten education shall be understood in this act to mean 1 year of preparatory education for children at least 5 years old as a prerequisite for grade 1. And D. Mother tongue refers to the language first learned by a child. So, when we talk about mother tongue, it refers to the language first learned by a child. So, mother tongue, most especially nga there is a mother tongue-based language education in TB-MLA. Mother tongue language is the first learned by a student, by a child. It could be Bisaya, Hiligaynon, Chabacano, English, Filipino, or any languages na mga dialect na gigamit sa bata. Section 4. Institutionalization of kindergarten education. Kindergarten education is hereby institutionalized as part of the basic education and for school year 2011-2012 shall be implemented partially, and thereafter it shall be made mandatory and compulsory for entrance to grade 1. So when we talk about institutionalizing, it means that it is about establishing as part of a practice or an organization. Therefore, the point of this Republic Act is to establish kindergarten as part of the K-12 curriculum. That means that it is already part of the basic education since 2011 to 2012. And when we say mandatory, compulsory, it means that it is needed for everyone to follow and no excuses. So meaning, kindergarten now with the K-12 curriculum is a prerequisite na for the grade 1 ay to enter grade 1 or to enter elementary education. So a child cannot proceed, cannot be promoted to grade 1 if and only a child can only be promoted to grade 1 if and only if he or she undergone kindergarten education. So, Section 5. Medium of instruction. The state shall hereby adopt the mother tongue-based multilingual education (MTB-MLE) method. The mother tongue of the learner shall be primary medium of instruction for the teaching and learning kindergarten level. However, exemption shall be made to the following cases. So, meaning to say, the medium of instruction, it is referred to the language that should be used in teaching kindergarten, and it has been said that the medium of instruction or the language that should be used in teaching kindergarten is the mother tongue-based multilingual education method, or meaning to say, you will use the mother tongue of the child to teach kindergarten. Like for example, in Lanao, in a specific area in Lanao, for example, Dawis. Dawis, it is a town, it is a barangay in Baroy. And people that live there, their language is Bisaya. Therefore, the child's mother tongue is Bisaya. And it should be in Bisaya on how to teach kindergarten. Therefore, The language that the teacher will use to teach the children of the kindergarten is Bisaya unless it falls to the following exemptions. A. When the pupils in kindergarten classroom have different mother tongues or when some of them speak another mother tongue. So meaning to say, you will not use the mother tongue base of that certain place if the children there speak different languages or has different mother tongue. Like for example, there is a kindergarten class that has the children in that kindergarten class, some of them speak Bisaya, some of them speak Hiligaynon, and some of them speak Chabacano. Therefore, the teacher shall not or should not settle to one mother tongue because it will only accommodate the lesser students and not all of them. The main goal of the education is to accommodate all. Remember that it has been a goal to have an inclusive education. Therefore, that's the time they will not adopt the mother tongue-based multilingual education method. Next exemption is when the teacher does not speak the mother tongue of the learners. Like for example, ako, if I teach kindergarten yet at Iloilo, yet I not speak Hiligaynon, the mother tongue the medium of instruction of the kindergarten that I am teaching is not Hiligaynon nor Bisaya because the teacher does not speak the mother tongue of the learners and the learners does not speak the mother tongue of the teacher. Next exemption is when resources in line with the use of the mother tongue are not yet available. So when resources in line with the use of the mother tongue are not yet available, so although the teacher and the learners has the same mother tongue, are speaking and the same language, the same first language, but there are no available resources, there are no available books and modules, other resources that has been provided by the higher office, it is safe not to use mother tongue-based multilingual education because what is the point if you do not have references, if you do not have resources? How will you be able to teach the child properly? And lastly, when teachers are not yet trained how to use MTB MLE program. So this is still ongoing training because it has been pila pa ka years siya na-establish. So pila pa siya ka years na na-establish and so there is still training, seminars, workshops that are done for the MTB MLE program. That means that not all kindergarten have or practice having medium of instruction using mother tongue because not all, especially if your mother tongue is spoken by few, unlike Cebuano. Almost all sa Mindanao dire you speak Cebuano, and all the higher offices are creating modules and also it's better. Next is in such exceptional cases, the primary medium of instruction shall be determined by the DepEd aligned with the framework being used in the elementary level, including teacher training and production of local resources and materials under DepEd Order Number 74, Series of 2009. So, according to my research, DepEd Order Number 74 Series of 2009 entitled Institutionalizing Mother Tongue-Based Multilingual Education, MLE, that is the use of more than two languages for literacy and instruction, so L1, L2, L3, but most of the time kay English man. English ang medium of instruction, di ba? So, mo to siya. the DepEd, in coordination with the Commission on the Filipino Language in the close collaboration with academic and research institutions concerned with education, shall formulate a mother tongue-based multilingual framework for teaching and learning, provided that the DepEd will include teaching strategies as defined in Section 7, which aims to introduce and eventually strengthen the child's understanding in English, which is the official language. So, maulagi to siya nga most of the time if the situations fall under the exemptions, English padulong ang medium of instruction, but not all. Most of the time, no, dili man siya implemente, but most of the time nga, ang medium of instruction is English because it is the official language in English.
Good morning and God bless everyone. I am Jessel A. Pitugo, taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Mathematics, and I am a second-year student. So my task is to report the Section 6 and Section 7 in Republic Act number 10157. Okay, so Section 6, Implementing Agency. The authority to regulate the organization, operation, and or implementation of kindergarten education program of both public and private schools shall be vested upon the DepEd or the Department of Education. So through the creation of a new division under the BEE. BEE stands for Bureau of Elementary Education. Okay. So the DepEd has the authority to regulate the organization, operation, and or implementation of the kindergarten education program. So siya ang authorized nga mo regulate ani nga program, both public and private schools. So this is through the creation of a new division under the BEE. Okay, and other necessary support to achieve successful implementation of kindergarten education to include but not limited to increasing the number of kindergarten teacher positions with, of course, the required salaries and benefits. Okay, so ang mga kindergarten teacher po is na po sila mga required salaries and benefits. So, kung unsay mga salaries and benefits nga nakuha sa secondary teacher o elementary teacher, same po dire sa kindergarten teacher. Okay, enhancing teacher training in early education. So, napoy training ang mga kindergarten teachers, of course, to enhance their capability and make some strategies since they are handling kindergarten students. So, mga bata pa nga nag-age of 5 ana. So then and providing the necessary allocations for classrooms and chairs, facilities and equipment and textbooks. So of course need pud sila aning of course ang kindergarten program pod is dapat na pod sila ay classrooms and chairs, of course tables, mga facilities and equipment equipment and also textbooks. So dapat naapod sila ani. Okay, so again ang DepEd ang naay authorized nga mo regulate ani nga program under the BEE or the Bureau of Elementary Education. Okay, next let's proceed to Section 7, the duties, powers, and functions of the DepEd. So the DepEd through the BEE shall exercise the following powers and functions. Okay, letter A, oversee and supervise the organization, operation, and implementation of kindergarten education program. Okay, so ang DepEd ang mo-oversee and supervise ani nga organization. Next, develop the curriculum for kindergarten education consistent with the universally accepted norms and standards. So, include na dire ang values formation of all of which
shall be developmentally appropriate and use of the MTB MLE as a medium of instruction, and to periodically review such for purposes of upgrading. Okay, so DepEd also will develop the curriculum for kindergarten education with the consistent with the universally accepted norms. Of course, they will use MTB MLE as a medium of instruction. So when we say MTB MLE, so this stands for Mother Tongue Based Multilingual Education. Okay, next let's proceed to letter C. So develop teaching strategies using the unique feature of MTB MLE, which shall include but not limited to the following. Okay, the DepEd also the DepEd through the BEE will also develop teaching strategies using the unique feature of the mother tongue based multilingual education. Okay, so we have here number 1, the two-track method, or the two-track method: storytelling and reading, listening story, oral communications activities. So mo ni ang example sa two-track method, storytelling. 'Di ba? Ang mga ang mga kindergarten students is ganahan kay sila maminaw mga stories, ganahan kay sila mustorya pod mo share sila mga stories, then mga naay oral communication ba between teacher and students. So ano mo jud ganahan sa mga kindergarten students. Okay, so two-track method mo ni siya. Then interactive strategies. Okay, when we say interactive strategies, there is an interaction between the students and the teacher. Okay, for example, kani. So, kumbaga mag-interact ang estudyante ug ang teacher. Right, for example, naipabuhat si teacher. Okay, so magtawag siya og name sa mga estudyante. Dayon, pagtuon sa blackboard kay naipasulat. So, mo na siya usa sa example sa interactive strategies. Another, kanang nasa picture, so nag-paint sila, nag-participate ang mga estudyante with the teacher. So there is an there is an interaction between the students and the teacher. So muna interactive strategies. Next, we have use of manipulative games. So, mga manipulative games, example kani. So, dili jud di mawala sa kindergarten classrooms na jud mga nani. Kay malingaw man ang mga estudyanteng mga kindergarten nga na sila makita nga ingon ani, then useful pud siya at the same time. Okay. Then experiential small group discussions and total physical response. So when we say total physical response, so the students will listen and do movements accordingly. So naa sila physical response ba, for example kani. Okay, kani. So experiential small group discussions and total physical response. So whenever kung bitaw mo participate sila sa teachers o mga kindergarten students na ay participation sa teacher, like kung ang teacher unsay action dira amtan man ang teacher nga okay class sun ako ninyo gun sa akong buhaton, so maunay buhaton pod sa mga students niya. So kung baga sun-on niya ang teacher gun sa iyang gi-action, balita nagkanta ang teacher, dayon mo na ang teacher sabayay ko ninyo din ug mo action ko sun apod niyo akong i-action. So maunay naay physical response ang teacher, ang mga estudyante sa iya ang teacher. So that is total physical response. Okay. So the learning development materials shall consist of the following at the minimum. Okay. So listening story, small books, big books, experience story, primer lessons, and lesson exemplars. So of course, dili gid na mawala sa kindergarten ng mga storytelling, mga storybook, mga small book ana di jud na siya mawala kay ngano mooro man na malingaw man sila na since bata pa man sila, so mao na yung mga habit nga gusto nilang buhaton bitaw. Hindi kay la bata pa gani on nanay calculus nga book, nanay pang geometry nga books dira nga di sila kabalo. So of course, since ang mga kindergarten teacher is handling mga bata, so therefore kini ang ilahang dapat kini ang naa sa classrooms. Okay, next, conceive, develop, and extend a continuing professional development program for kindergarten teachers to ensure constant updating of their knowledge of their knowledge in current trends, pedagogy, methodologies, and concepts on early childhood education. So the DepEd through BEE will conceive, develop, and extend further training programs for kindergarten educators, of course, to continually update their knowledge of the current trends, pedagogy, methodologies, and concepts in early education. Okay. Next, prescribe the necessary qualifications for the hiring and accreditation of teachers who will handle the kindergarten education program. So sila ang mag-prescribe sa mga necessary qualifications for hiring and accreditation of teachers nga magtudlo og magdala sa kindergarten education program. So if mo apply gani ka sa kindergarten teacher, syempre na ay mga qualifications for the hiring. So ang DepEd will be the one to prescribe the necessary qualifications for the hiring and accreditation of teachers. So next, letter C, exercise authority over the operation of private kindergarten institutions. So meaning ani, kindergarten has become part of the education system and a prerequisite for admission to grade 1. So kibali required jud ang kindergarten para makaproceed og grade 1 ang mga bata. Okay, so let's proceed. Supervise the establishment of various venues for early childhood education, which may be institution-based, home-based, hospital-based, and community-based, and which shall be duly accredited by the DepEd. Okay. So, pangisiwaan ang pagpapatatag ng iba't ibang mga venue para sa early childhood education. Okay. No? They will be the one to supervise for establishment of the various venues for early education. So, bisag asa. Okay. Education. So, pwede bisag asa nga venue. So, pwede sa institution-based, pwede home-based, hospital-based, or community-based. But, it must be properly accredited or authorized by the Department of Education. So, bisan asa, pwede ka maka-establish o venue para sa early childhood. But dapat, accredited siya sa DepEd. So, na siya, it should be accredited or authorized by the Department of Education. Okay. Next, we have introduce innovative programs in kindergarten that shall include educational technologies whenever applicable. Okay, so introducing innovative program in kindergarten that incorporates educational technology. So, for example, ang mga educational technology is mga tablet, mga laptops nga i-issue sa DepEd, preto mong i-issue sa DepEd nga of course gamiton siya sa klase or gamit siya sa klase. So, nag-introduce po sila ani mga innovative programs in kindergarten.
Let us proceed to the next reporter, Miss Floribel O. Ladlada.
Again, this is Jessel A. Pitugo. Thank you and God bless us all.
Once again, good day and God bless everyone. I am Floribel Odadlada, a second-year student picking up Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Math. And I will going to continue the report from Ms. Pitogo, Republic Act Number 10157, Section 8, Appropriation. The DepEd shall immediately include in the program of the department the operationalization of the free, mandatory, and compulsory public kindergarten education, the initial funding of which shall be charged against the current appropriation for kindergarten education of the DepEd. Thereafter, sums which shall be necessary for the continued implementation of the pre-public kindergarten education program shall be charged to the General Fund and included in the Annual General Appropriation Act. So Republic Act 10157 Section 8 states that kindergarten should be first stage of pre-compulsory and mandatory formal education, and from the word free means nutrition fee at all, and DepEd must put this law to be acted upon immediately, and the fund that needed this free kindergarten education should be charged to the General Fund and included in the Annual General Appropriation Act. So this section clearly states that dili gikan sa bulsa sa mga ginikanan or solicitation ang pagamiton na funds para mataguyod ni na implementation para sa kaugmaon sa mga bata, kundi ang ahensya na responsable na maoy mo provide, and since free, then parents should have no reason to do not send their child to school, kay it's the government na ang nag-offer og help na makaeskwela ang mga bata og mahatagan og maayong kaugmaon. And like for example, a child whose age 3 or 4 years old will be sent to schools and probably in daycare. After completing the stage of education, the child or student must be sent to kindergarten first as part of the K-12 program. And a student who does not undergo this first stage of education cannot proceed to grade 1. So this law is acted naman, diba? Kay as we experience since the beginning of K-12 program, wherein 10 years of schooling in primary and secondary before, now it becomes 12 years. And before, kay it's okay to send the child directly in grade 1 as long as he knows how to write his or her name and know basic knowledge. But due to the K-12 program of DepEd, a child should undergo kindergarten first before proceeding the next step of education. It's like following the step one by one, and wala jud dapat laktawan. Bisan pag unsa na siya ka bright, kabalo na siya. So she should start sa kindergarten before proceed to grade 1. Di siya pwede mo ang back to grade 1 sa pag unsa na siya ka bright. So next, section 9, implementing rules and regulation. So within 90 days after the effectivity of this act, the DepEd, in consultation with the Department of Budget and Management, shall promulgate the rules and regulation needed for the implementation of this act. So Republic Act Number 10157 Section 9 presented the implementation of rules and regulation of this law. This state that DepEd, in conjunction with the Department of Budget and Management, shall establish the rules and regulation necessary to carry out this act within 90 days of its enactment. So kini na section kay nagaprovoke sa DepEd na di dapat padugayon og ayo ang pag-implement sa mga balaod kalapkip ani nga law. So instead, it should follow the 90 days given, and dili dapat isantabi ni sa DepEd bagkos lihukon jud dayon. So it should be walang patumpik-tumpik. For example, you are assigned as grade 10 class advisors of section Einstein. So and part of you being a teacher is not just to teach your students and fill their finds of knowledge, but also to discipline them with good manners. So you start it by implementing rules and regulation the moment you have talked to your students. So it should not be delayed or iingon na nimo at the end of school year, but it should be implement start pa lang sa klase. So it should not be delayed or iingon na nimo at the end of the school year. Kay diba? Rules and regulations should be given for the student to follow throughout the school year. And mauna ay implementation of rules and regulation para sa kaayuhan sa tanan, and they should be followed and no exceptions of excuses. Bisan nga kita college na ay sa first day of school na ay orientation para makabalo ta sa rules and regulation of the teachers. So next, Republic Act number 10157, section 10, separability clause. So if any provision of this act is held invalid or unconstitutional, the same shall not affect the validity and effectivity of the other provision hereof. So Republic Act number 10157 section 10 presented separability clause of this law. So this law states that any section of this act is found to be defective or unconstitutional, the validity and effectiveness of the remaining provisions shall not be affected. For example, sa isa ka law nga gi-implement kay one of your section nga mingfeld sa iyang duty as part of the law. Then kay siya naman mingfeld, so dili apel ang uban ng section na ming-fulfill sa ilang duty. It's like natunok ang isa ka ligid sa usa ka kutsi or sakinan. So ang 3 nga nabiling naligid kay okay ra, kay wala man sila na apel og katunok. So it means that isa ra kaligid ang wala ming function or di na mo function, at the rest 3 nga gulong kay mo function japon. So this act, if ever defective or unconstitutional, the validity and effectiveness will still remain provision and shall not be affected. So that's all my report, and let's proceed to the next reporter.
Good day and God bless. I am Jamaica Shan Marshall, taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English. And for today, I was assigned to report the Republic Act 10157, which is Section 11, Repealing Clause, and Section 12, Effectivity Clause. Section 11, Repealing Clause. Pertinent provisions of all other laws, decrees, executive orders, and rules and regulations contrary to or inconsistent with the provisions of this Act are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. So, in this section, lahat ng mga batas like batas kautusan ng Pangulo, mga kautosang administratibo, o mga kautosang tagapaganap, mga tuntunin o mga regulasyon ay hindi naaayon or against o salungat sa mga probisyon ng batas na ito ay tinuring na pinawilang bisa o binago. Like for example, our President, which is Rodrigo Duterte, kay naghimo og balaod or mga executive order regarding sa health sanitation or regarding sa kindergarten laws, o niyang himo kay opposite sa balaod sa Pilipinas, kanayang executive order or kanang himo niyang balaod is mapawalang bisa. So what happens when a law is repealed? So, kapag ang mga batas ay pinawalang bisa, ang kanilang teksto ay tatanggalin lamang mula sa kodigo at papalitan ng isang tala na nagbubuod kung ano ang dating naroroon. Kapag natanggal na, wala ng parsa ng batas ang na-repeal na batas. So, when can a law be repealed? So, ang isang batas ay maaaring ipawalang bisa sa pamamagitan ng pagpasa ng isang batas na hindi naaayon sa lumang batas. In Section 12, Effectivity Clause, this act shall take effect 15 days after its publication in the official gazette or in 2 newspapers of general circulation. So, this agreement shall take effect upon the signing of agreement by the parties. So, And also, this agreement will remain year to year by academic school year at nababago bawat taon. And this agreement also take effect o magkakabisa sa pizza ng pagperma, but of course, ma-effective ni siya if mapermahan, ayan ni siya ma-approve. And this law was approved by Juan Ponce Enrile, a president of the Senate, Feliciano Belmonte Jr., a Speaker of the House of Representatives, Emma Lereo Reyes, the Secretary of Senate, Marilyn Barua Yap, the Secretary General House of Representatives, and Benigno Aquino III, our former president. And this Republic Act number 157 was approved on January 20, 2021. In addition, this act, which originated in the House of Representatives, was finally passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate on November 21, 2011 and November 23, 2011, respectively. Thank you for listening. That's all, and God bless.